Great, thank you. Just let me get my deck up here. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate this opportunity. This is Pactiv Evergreen's. This is the first year we've been part of the Ballpex Vendor Elite Program, so it's exciting for us. We never had a chance to present to all the Ballpex members at once, so doing a webinar in front of you is a pretty exciting thing for us as we go forward. And we think we chose a very relevant topic for you and for us, as the pros and cons of buying import food packaging versus domestic food packaging. So before I dive into the pros and cons, I'm going to do a few slides about Pactiv Evergreen to sort of ground everybody and maybe some people who may not know much about us, to give you a little bit of some information about who we are, and then we'll get into it. Where's the slide? There we go. So we are the leading manufacturer of fresh food and beverage packaging in North America. We're committed to protecting our customers' products and brands and our natural resources. You see the factoids below there. There's over 16,000 employees, and we have 44 warehouses and 10 distribution centers and lots of products, over 14,000 products. Material types. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper there on material types, because this is a slide that sort of shows you all the material types we have. It's a lot on the slide, I get it. And it's food merchandising and food service across the top. And really, it's just sort of showing you all the things we make and the material types. But we see this as a major differentiator between us and our competition, and that we can make so many types of products with different material types. So we can get your customers anything they want, any kind of substrate they want. We can sort of, in a lot of ways, we can almost be their one-stop shop for all their customers' packaging needs. So we're the guy that can do it all, basically. And thankfully, I want to say something quickly also as well. Thankfully, we also have a very strong broker network. We have Hudson Marketing out west, and we have Single Service Sales, the reigning Ballpex Broker of the Year in 2022 in Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. And I bring them up because our brokers are experts when it comes to product knowledge and understanding material types. They're great at finding solutions and working with your end users and what material type works best for them. And they're a resource that we have that you can use, and really remiss in not adding that value added they bring to the table in talking to your customers. So in 2020, Pactiv and Evergreen Packaging merged to create Pactiv Evergreen, a public company that's now listed on the NASDAQ exchange. In 2020, we also released our first sustainability report as a public company. We put a stake in the ground and announced this aggressive goal that by 2030, 100% of our products will be made with recycled, recyclable, or renewable materials. Now, just to understand that a little bit, in 2020, we are, and we probably still are, the largest manufacturer of polystyrene. And when I talk polystyrene, I'm talking primarily, hinged foam containers and meat foam trays, right? So we're the largest one in North America. So we get a lot of business in that area. And so we're saying that by 2030, if not earlier, we'll be totally out of those businesses. So they would have been over around 40% of our businesses at that time. So when you look at from that perspective, how are we doing? So here we are at the end of 21, early 2022, 64% of our revenue were from products made with recycled, recyclable, or renewable materials. So we're on our way to that goal of 100%. Some of our strategies, just quickly touch on some of the strategies that are going to help us get there. We use recycled renewable resins in our plastic all the time. It's always PET or polypropylene, everything we make nowadays. A lot of our polystyrene OPS stuff we're converting to PET or polypropylene. We're always trying to use more recycled material. We say minimum 30%. A lot of times it's more than that. We're going to continue to push on that. So always would be recycled plastic that we think we can be sustainable going forward. Paper products, fiber bases with Pactiv Evergreen. This will probably be the area where we'll see a lot more growth from us over the next few years as we start to innovate and bring more innovation on the paper side. We brought the one box in the last couple of years, the Tamper Evident. We'll bring some more. We're starting to do some old paper products we haven't been making as much. We're getting back in those games to help bring it to the market because there has been a demand for paper products. And you'll see some more on us in that front. We have aluminum. We always had aluminum. Obviously, there's a lot of world issues on where you buy aluminum that causes it, but we'll always have that in our portfolio, and that's infinitely recyclable. So that fits our criteria as we move forward. The last point on this chart I just want to highlight is, we're always looking to reduce the environmental footprint. We're investing in our manufacturing sites to make sure we use less energy. We're looking always at our freight, how we can be efficient in our hub and spoke model, and how we distribute products throughout our network. We look also talking about reducing our ocean shipments across the ocean, and most of our products are made domestically. We make some of our bagasse products in the United States. We do import some, so we're looking to reduce that as much as we can as we move forward. And we do import some of our materials that we make our products with. So we're trying to reduce that and buy more domestically as we move forward. So that's a big push for us as well. So this is the last slide about Pactiv Evergreen. This is more about, for a tier one major food packaging supply company. We're very proud and take a leadership in our strategy and ESG, right? So for us, ESG is very important to us. It's something that, is important to our DNA, for obvious reasons, right? So it's better for the environment, our people, and our businesses. It's the right thing to do as a company in our position. But I say that, but I also want to highlight the fact that it does add cost to our business, right? And these are costs that are part of our business as we move forward. If you need to move that way and be part of society and ride that way, it does imply cost as well. So I'm going to get into the pros and cons now and start that part of the presentation. But before I get there, is there any questions regarding Pactiv Evergreen? Anybody have any questions at all? It's good. We'll get going into the pros and cons. So almost like 6 months ago, you guys will remember this date, December 20th. The government, our lovely governments, banned food packaging, a lot of food packaging like hinge foam, black base containers, the compound, some black base comes in straws, and stir sticks, and a whole bunch of other things, right? I'm going to focus on hinge foam for this conversation as an example of hinge foam versus MFPP hinged. But so where are we now with that hinge foam business? So that hinge foam business is gone, and where has it gone to? It's gone 75 to 80% has gone to MFP hinge is what we're seeing based on your feedback and other suppliers and what we've been talking about in the market and where we see the sales going. A little bit's gone to bagasse, around 15 to 20%, probably higher in the Maritimes where bagasse is more accepted and people use MFPP less in the Maritimes, but 15 to 20 nationally. And then you see the others like one box aluminum, and then we have some polystyrene and PET hinge containers that are also there in that 0 to 10%. So that's where it's gone. What we probably didn't foresee as well is how fast MFPP imports being flooded into the marketplace, sort of disrupting the old route to market for hinge foam, right? We're seeing numerous 3D players out there buy imports directly. They're cutting out domestic distributors like yourselves and suppliers, domestic suppliers like us, right? Like Pactiv Evergreen. So that's a big dynamic that maybe we didn't fully understand when it happened 6 months earlier that would happen. I'm going to call out one other thing that we've noticed in the last 6 months. We've been doing a lot of shows, restaurant shows and food shows and stuff like that. And one thing we've heard this enough times, a story that we wanted to call it out. So with qualitative data, but we hear a lot end users come to our booth and they see some of our product. And for example, let's see the MFPP container and they go, my distributor's not showing this to me. I don't know, how can I get this in the marketplace? And a lot of times we say, well, who's the distributor? And we find out it's one that we do business with. And they say they're not getting it. So they're saying, it just says they're just showing everything on price. They're not showing me anything else that's got quality. I'm maybe willing to pay some more money for that, or something that maybe I don't want to buy an import for ethical reasons or what, but they're not showing me the other options. So there's a trend there that everybody's just hammering on the price. And that's something we'll talk to a bit further as we move through the deck. So I'm going to say it out loud, I'm going to say this directly. So, at the end of the day, there's sometimes imported products that be more price competitive than we are. We're the largest manufacturer in North America. We got scale, we got expertise, we got efficiencies, we got buying power, we got a lot of things. And a lot of times that works in our advantage where we can be more competitive than the rest of the market. In this case, we're looking at MFPP hinge. We can't match them on price. We've tried, we've looked at finance, we'd be losing money, taping money to each case if we did it at the same price as they are. Now, we may be better in quality in some other areas, which we'll talk to, but we can't, in this case, match on price. And that happens sometimes we see in the marketplace. And, obviously here's some of the reasons why. I use this chart just to show the difference in income per year for China versus United States and Canada. 5 times in Canada, around 6 times the United States. So labor is a big part of it, right? We pay more for labor. Labor can be up to 30% of our costs in our cost of goods. We make a product. So that's a huge hurdle for us to overcome. You look at other hurdles like higher costs for raw materials. We pay more on the market in North America for raw materials than they would in China. Energy costs are higher, insurance, taxes, employee benefits. Sometimes we can overcome these costs in our production on that, but sometimes we can't. In this case, we can't. So you need to sell not on price, but look at other ways of how we go to market to win in the marketplace. So I'm going to jump into the imports, domestics, pros and cons, right? The first one, no surprise, price. Obviously, in this case, it's a pro for imports and a con for us. Other cons, start with the imports and the cons. The first one's environmental impact. And Ken, our general manager, myself, we kind of jumped down a rabbit hole a bit on this one. There's a lot of information out there about measuring the carbon footprint and the impact of it. And there's some exciting stuff finding that on the web and in the world on this. And here's a chart, and all this chart we're trying to show you is just how much the carbon impact, the environmental impact is by importing product in from China. So in this case, we're comparing similar finished goods products. So it's not anything else, but just the finished goods. We're not getting into manufacturing costs, raw material costs, and all the other things. It's a pretty complicated stew, and staying out of that, we're trying to keep it simple point that from a case, and this data, they use a well-to-wake emissions measurement. It's sort of something that's a lot for ocean freight measurements. And they're saying for a load from, so for example, a load from Chicago to Bolton, which Chicago is where we have a lot of plants and Bolton's where our warehouse is, would be like 90.83 kilograms of well-to-wake emissions. And that's just a unit that sort of measures the carbon impact of shipping the product. For a similar load, a full truck load or a full load from China, Fengcheng, China, the major exporter port in China, to the port of Vancouver, the emission runs at over 613 kilograms per load. It's a big difference, big gap. Obviously, you start looking at how many plants we got in our world that we play in: 22 food service plants, 24 food merchandising plants. There's a lot of truckings moving around. There's a lot of differences in a carbon footprint and impact on the environment, right? So a big environmental story there that trying to measure, and I think you'll see more and more of this news and how they measure it and impact as we move forward as it gets more precise in the science. So environmental impact's a big one, as a big con. The next one's cash flow and low inventory turns I put together a little bit. Obviously, you guys have a better understanding of this than I do, who do buy imports. Some of you may. Like obviously you got to pay money up front. You got to wait for terms. You got to wait for it to get the product. When you do get the product, it takes a long time to turn that inventory. So you're tying up your cash, your inventory, and upfront payments. Obviously, with interest rates, ranging from 6, 7, 8% for a business interest rate, that's a lot of cash and a lot of interest. You're just tying up a lot, right? So that's a big negative for buying in imports. And the last one I call a bit of a con is stability of supply. We saw the pandemic recently that was impacted the supply for imports dramatically. Obviously, another health crisis could come quickly or could happen again. Hope not. Touch wood. Obviously, there's trade wars out there. There's other geopolitical forces that have impact the stability. God forbid, military actions taken, but that stuff can happen, and then there's a stability effect there as well on imports. And then we look at our side on the domestic side, the pros. Product quality innovation are pros as we move forward. And I think I'll take the MFPP containers we're talking about as an example. We quickly innovated, brought out vented containers, a better seal, not leakage at all, very strong container, and has a high quality container. We're able to innovate that quickly. And most of our containers are higher quality, typically a little bit heavier than imports, so a little bit more gauge involved in the product type. The other one there I highlight is the cash flow. I always think of the Costco model, right? A lot of times people say Costco is a bank. They're buying their product and selling it, and they're taking the profits on the sales and just turning the cash. A lot of times they're selling way more before they have to pay the bill, right? So you can get that dynamic going where you're almost selling the product before your next load, right? So you're just constantly turning your inventory and your cash flow and taking advantage of the profit off those sales and turning your cash, right? The other one is structured support structure. Like as a domestic company in North America, we provide a lot of supports and in rebates alone for Ballpex in 2022, we spent over $1 million in rebates and volume incentive payouts, right? So that support you wouldn't get from domestics probably in most cases. Salesforce support. We have, as I alluded to earlier, strong Salesforce support. They're providing samples, sales sheets, other things, expertise, other things you can use as well on that front. The other one is, we have a process for quality. If some quality issues happen, we have a process where we can address the quality, pay back. If it's our fault or something that we did wrong, we pay that back. And it's a little cumbersome, I admit, but we do have a QIR process that helps address any financial issues on that side and provide security. The last two I want to call out are greater stability of supply. We did have issues with pandemic as well, but we tend to be able to listen what we make. We'll give you your allocation of what we make. If you're buying from us, we'll take care of you first for sure. Those kind of things. We're domestic. We can usually move quicker, adapt quicker, and make things happen a bit quicker as well. The last one I want to call out is liability insurance. We pay millions of dollars in liability insurance. If anything happens or something happens to the product or customer, we have that insurance to cover us, which you may not see with imports. So at this point, I don't know if anybody wants any comments or questions regarding the pros and cons.
No questions. Feel free to type it in the chat. If you don't want to ask a question live, you can type it in the chat as well.
I've got a question about MFPP. I've heard lots of people, or some people saying that it's not as recyclable as say a polypropylene.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
I can definitely. It isn't. No, MFPP is it's the reduction. It's the first R, reduce, right? So what I mean by that is you use up to 60% less polypropylene to make that product, right? So right away you're using a lot less product. That's the benefit it offers. Is it recyclable? It's not as recyclable. Most places don't have industrial compost recycling that can manage an MFPP. So there's a struggle there. The reality right now in our current environment is we're not really doing a great job of recycling the PET, the product that's going into the waste management system. Estimates now around less than 10% of that stuff is getting recycled in the marketplace. So a lot of it's just being thrown in the dump as it is, right? So as the bigger issue is closing that loop and making sure it's recyclable. But that will probably lead to more and more polypropylene packaging going down the road where that will be the lead as it goes forward, right? That and PET or fiber products. There's also, more energy to make a polypropylene. There's other costs or energy costs associated between MFPP production and a polypropylene production. I don't know if Ken maybe, are you on the line? I'm sure I know he wants to attend. He was planning to. I don't know if you can support.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Yeah, so we get a lot of those questions, Chuck. So it's a great question. But yeah, not recyclable. However, reduced amount of plastic to make it, and it is reusable. So if it's treated properly, it's a reusable product and not a single-use plastic product. And that's one of the biggest selling features about it, is the reusability of it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay, so we'll have a last question to you at the end here. Just a couple more slides. Just get out of here. So I do want to talk and open up a bit about moving forward and how we stop, I sort of, my language is how we stop selling on price alone. We have a lot of resources at our disposal. We sometimes don't even appreciate how much we have. Hopefully you're seeing more come from Pactiv Evergreen resource-wise, sell sheets, just insights and tools for you to help with selling your products and provide information in the marketplace. We got the brokers who can help educate your sales force on product knowledge, benefits and highlights, help justify a difference in price. You know, they're available to you, and we have some meetings set up, and please reach out if you'd like to have a meeting in the next few weeks or even after June. That's great as well. And then a lot about coaching, and you know, we're coaching ourselves a lot, and we're working with the brokers. We're always working on how do we not get into that price trap. And you know, it's hard. We don't, you know, usually don't jump the price first thing all the time, right? But you know, you know, it's important not to make assumptions about your end users. Some end users are driven not always by price. They're more driven maybe about ethical decisions about buying less pollution, or you know, human rights issues or whatever would drive them, that maybe they don't want to buy an import product. So you need to highlight those things. You need to put those, sure they're highlighted in the conversations. We'd also recommend, hey, we understand a lot of people want price, but you know, a lot of times suggest two options, a price option and maybe a little bit higher quality option, to try to trade them up, giving them both options, and then you know, play from there and highlight the benefits to help do the trade up strategy. You know, and a question that we always ask in our world, and this is a lot more of the food service side of the world, but it applies to HMR as well. You know, at the end of the day, a person's taking, you know, a family of four is taking home a take-home meal. It's easily going to push up to $80 to $100 a lot of times, probably even more sometimes for a takeout meal. So why would you take the risk of creating a bad experience to save a few cents on packaging? If that package leaks or something happens to there, you may have saved that few cents on the packaging, but you just cost yourself a return trip, maybe multiple return trips, because they had a bad experience at $100 per sale, right? And I think that plays, as we're getting out of, things are changing, that plays a lot more, and people are understanding, you know, they're coming out a bit more of the siege mentality, looking at how to make sure they're investing in their business and winning in the marketplace, because there's reality. Some of those packages don't always perform well. There will be problems with the product, especially on the take-home type of occasion. So, last little PR slide, you know, because I had to do this at the end here. I just want to, you know, a lot of new products you've seen. Well, you guys probably seen a lot of these. You know, this lady's very happy. She's got some new polypropylene hinge containers here. Those are the ones that are just launching now. They're just coming to market now. Very exciting. We got some entree to go. So this is usually a black offering in the States, but we have a few white SKUs there. So it meets the, you know, it's allowed to be sold in Canada. So that's another new product that's here. It's got a lid and a base. It's a little heavier gauge, great for takeout meals as well. And then you got, you know, we're kind of leading the way on the PFAS free on our Earth Choice free fiber products. And down below you can see some of our these are a little bit older innovations. Our one box, our Tamper Evident. We got white and craft across the board for 5 containers, one box, and then again the MFPP we've been talking about a lot today. So a lot more things will be coming, and those are the ones we have right now. And you know, obviously some of you work on the HMR grocery side. We have a lot of, all the blacks are turning to clear or whites, and we've kind of been leading the way on that as well. So on that note, I just open up for you know, say thank you and open up for any more questions if anybody has in regards to the pros and cons or anything about Pactiv Evergreen.
On the PFAS free side, is all of that in Bolton?
That's a great question. We've pretty well converted all our pressware. If you do any pressware stuff, that's all gone PFAS free. That's in Bolton. We have the PFAS free in the States. I think, Ken, there might be a bit on a couple of food service customers are asking for PFAS free now. We're bringing some of it up. So it's been more on request or questions to get it. But we can send an update and we can get it up. We have it pretty well. I'm talking about the gas and plates, more of a food service lines. We have them all in the States ready to go. Cost-wise, the PFAS free, I think, is around, I want to say 11%, 10 to 12% higher in cost. PFAS, any surprise, is a lot cheaper than the substitute that's going in to replace it. And obviously there's a big skill related to that as well.
So in order, PFAS makes it more rigid, I understand.
Yeah.
So you had to come up with an alternative, and how certain are we of that alternative?
Yeah, it's oh geez, I've never, just a good question, Chuck. I'm thinking, you know, my assumption is that, we, obviously, there's no cancer risk or health risk associated to the alternative, right? From health.
That's kind of
FDA
what I'm
or-
asking. Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing associated to that. I should
Okay.
be able to speak a little better for that. But that there is no risk on using the substitute in that regards. And that's why PFAS is being banned, right? There's some health links, especially in the States where that's been much more aggressive. You're starting to see some newspaper articles in Canada, and I wouldn't be surprised if the government does do something, or it does become more of a public issue in regards to over the next year. It isn't really yet in Canada, to be frank. You haven't heard a whole lot. You're just starting to hear a little bit, but it can happen quickly.
Actually, Chuck, coincidentally enough, my neighbor works for Nova Chemicals, which is a Canadian processor. And she went out with a couple of her friends to celebrate commercializing this new product. And it was an alternative to PFAS. So I believe all these larger companies, Dow Chemicals, Nova Chemicals, are introducing stuff that's equivalent to the PFAS, the long polymers, I guess. So a lot of companies are working on alternatives.
Chuck, I don't think you could tell the difference between one, either our old version or our new version. I don't think you could tell the difference from a quality perspective or a visual perspective. There is a difference at all.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions here. So I'm just looking at them now. Where is the PFAS-free sugarcane clamshells and plates made? I believe we're importing them. They're imported right now.
So we do import a number of products through our facilities that we control out of Asia, but the majority of what we use in North America is made in North America. And we will be out of PFAS by the end of this year.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. Maybe Ken, stay on the second question. Are you able to share the chemistry that is utilized in lieu of PFAS with group?
Not at this point in time. It is proprietary, but we will talk with legal and see what we can share.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's to Marty's point, like people have asked, how do you tell what's the difference? How do you tell when you see a product what's got PFAS and what doesn't?
Yeah. So our product is going to have a free at the end of the item code. So it'll be the existing item code that you currently buy plus free, FREE at the end, and that'll be the indicator that it is PFAS free.
Stay tuned. On one of the blogs this week, there will be a sell sheet on the PFAS free. So you'll see that. And those are the items that we have that are available in the United States. We can get it up to Bolton very quickly.
Are there any other questions before we wrap up? No? If questions come to mind afterwards, please feel free, and hopefully, Carl, this is okay. Send questions to Carl or Marty or Andrew, depending on who you deal with. But if there's no more questions, I just want to say thank you to Carl and Ken and Marty and Andrew for your time today presenting. This is always good information, especially with this type of topic. So thank you so much. And again, if anyone has any questions or concerns or anything, please let any one of us know.
And thank you. That's sorry to close the test. We'll set up the deck. I think Tanis, we talked about that. So, you have the contact information, reach out to, like Tanis said, Ken or myself, and then the brokers in your regions. If you we love to talk to your sales team and how we can help them engage with some of the products, some of the challenges they're facing out there.
Yeah, and again, this will be uploaded to the portal within the next 24 hours. Please feel free to go back and take a look or send it to your team. Thanks, everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanis. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, thank you.